Hello, everyone. I'm Keith DeStone, and this is HeroesX Office Hours, coming to you from around the world with Greg, Nagy, Sarah, Janet, and Elle. We are discussing the questions for hours 18 and 19. The hour 18 question is as follows. How is the god Poseidon relevant to the plot of the drama Oedipus at Colonus by Sophocles? There are many possible answers to this question, but I would ask you to choose only one answer.
It's a frustrating question, isn't it?
He appears so little.
Well, so little, but he looms so large.
He's looming. Yes.
He's looming. He's looming.
So what do folks make of this
Okay,
ever-present?
One participant offers two answers, so so I'll choose one of the two because Greg asked for one.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
So anyway, he's stating that the Torikios Petros at Colonus and the idea of the white rock. Okay, so the myth is connected to the last moments of Oedipus as living mortal. So is Colonus through the linked with the symbolic of the white rock for Colonus? Is asking what is the link between the white rock and the
Yes. Well, I tell you, before I address that, shall we do the second answer of this brave participant?
That I will take.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's the horse example, and the horse begotten by Poseidon, and Poseidon being god of horses is in the picture. So I think these answers are going to boom.
Yes. Well, it's all so complicated, and as I said at the beginning, it's really unfair of me and certainly frustrating for the participants for me to try to force them to come up with one answer, because there isn't one answer. So it's really a game in a way. I always think of Colonus the way it's described in the tragedy by Sophocles as it's a kind of theme park of every kind of hero cult you can imagine. Now I'm exaggerating, but not much. And when it comes to Poseidon, I really want to go back to the most basic aspects of Poseidon, which is not only that he can manifest himself as a horse and be the sire, the father of the prototypical horse when he begets various different divine horses in various different myths anchored in various different places, and I think of who the mother is for this fathering, and of course it's Mother Earth in many versions, and I do tip my hat to that in my write-up of Hour 18 in Ancient Greek Hero in 24 Hours. In some versions, Mother Earth is specified as Demeter, and to my mind, Demeter does mean Earth Mother, and Poseidon does mean the god who dominates the Earth Mother in a kind of sexual way, or if you like, in a cosmic way, as manifested primarily in earthquakes and in the welling up of springs from Mother Earth below. So even if we don't think of hero cults yet, and we don't think of the prototypical hero of Colonus, who is Colonus, that's his name. It's where the name of the prototypical hero is also the name of the place where the hero is venerated, worshipped as a cult hero. Let's not even go there yet. If you just think of Poseidon as the god who shakes things up and who is the god of shaking up the earth, so to speak, and of freshwater springs that well up from under the earth, that alone, I think, gets us started with my frustrating question of, well, okay, how is Poseidon relevant? Well, when you think of his elemental powers, wouldn't that be a good place to start? At least to start. But I surely don't blame the participants for saying, may I have another chance? May I do another aspect? And while I'm at it, another. And that's fine, actually. As I say, it's a teasing question because it's a frustrating problem.
In fact, in your answer, Greg, there you touched on something else that participants have been noticing, which is that of Earth and Mother Earth.
Yeah.
But another aspect of that Mother Earth is the sort of transformative. So thinking of maybe where he's discharging semen and the horse comes, it also causes fertility of the earth, and that the earth will also, and I'm touching on two people's answers here, the earth will then embrace the corpse of initially Colonus and then of Oedipus, and again transforming it into this lush vegetation and sort of sanctuary and helping place, and so sort of each new wave of heroes connecting with Poseidon, with Earth, sort of all culminating in this sacred space that becomes more and more sacred.
Yes. Oh, that's. I love the way, dear Sarah, you channeled the concerns of our participants by talking about each new wave. I love that. I love that because there are just so many phases of how to visualize humanity being connected to Poseidon. And then of course, who's the biggest missing piece of them all? It's Athena herself. When you think of the fact that Colonus is a kind of microcosm of Athens, just as every deme, D-E-M-E, is a microcosm of Athens. And Athens is really a sum total of all the demes, but each deme has its own way of worshiping gods and heroes. And at Colonus, at various moments you think, wow, this is Athens in a microcosm. Well, if it's Athens in a microcosm, where's Athena? And here I circle back to the wonderful research of Douglas Frame, who shows that if we shoot Athena, the goddess, back in time, just a few centuries, Athena herself is not just a virgin goddess, she is a mother goddess as well, and she recycles just as the goddess Hera will keep on recycling centuries later, but Athena, at least in Athens, stops being a mother, at least directly, and is only a virgin, although she still gets to breastfeed the proto-hero of the Athenians, Erechtheus, in Iliad 2 even. And there are clearly references to her motherly role in Sophocles' Oedipus at Colonus, but it's not direct. Athena has been short-circuited as a full-fledged mother, but she's still there as a full-fledged mother, kind of under the surface, or may I put it this way, under the earth. When Mother Earth lovingly embraces and enfolds Oedipus in her mysterious way, that is a return to Mother Earth, which will promise returns back to light and life as well, in a beautifully seasonal way, which is, after all, perfect for the deme of Colonus, which is also a garden. So in one way, it's the city of Athens in microcosm, but it's also a beautiful garden. And I go back to that wonderful image where Athena says in the Eumenides of Aeschylus that I am the gardener of Athens. So there's so many things. It's mind-boggling how much this old man in his 90s managed to put in, also lovingly, to this put into this amazing masterpiece of Athenian drama. Amazing.
Well, let's do the hour 19 question.
Yes, as much as we can do these questions, they're so frustrating. But I'm glad that the participants are engaging in the way I hope they would be, which is embracing the complexities. Okay, that said,
let's embrace a few more here.
Yes.
Do you think that the plot of the myth of the Sphinx is relevant to the plot of the drama Oedipus Tyrannus by Sophocles? I bet there's more than one answer to this one.
Yes. We start with silence.
No, well, one participant, of course, thinks that the plots are connected, but he also adds that the people believed he was first also in dealing with superhuman forces. So was the mention of superhuman forces referring to the Sphinx?
Oh, I think so, yes. Since I am engaging right now with my dear Francophone friend, Elle, I can't help myself. I bring back in my mind, this doesn't seem relevant at first, the obsession of the great French poet. After all, for the French, he's primarily a poet, only secondarily a novelist. I'm talking about Victor Hugo, and how obsessed Victor Hugo was. And it's such a sad story about the death of one of his daughters. I believe she hadn't even turned 20, and she drowned in a boating accident. And the French are obsessed with this person too, because of a beautiful poem that Victor Hugo wrote, Elle avait pris. She had a way about her, which is about this girl growing up as a little girl and being part of her father's life, as the father was, shall we say, producing poetry. And in the poem, clearly she has a role in making poems, and it's beautifully done. But there's this obsession of Victor Hugo about her losing her breath underwater. And there's a very moving film, Adele H, as in Hugo H, the initial of the last name of this other daughter of Victor Hugo, and how this daughter who has survivor's guilt keeps imagining the moment of drowning. And why am I saying all of this? Well, here it comes. Sphinx. Sphinx means the choker, and it seems to come back to this notion of how when we have nightmares, we feel we're short of breath and we're choking, and that's what the Sphinx is. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmarish feeling of help. I'm losing my breath, and that says so much to me about the riddle of the Sphinx, and why the Sphinx is so deadly at the same time so beautiful and fascinating. Maybe I've strayed too far away from the Sphinx of Oedipus, but not too much. There is so much about nightmares in the Oedipus Tyrannos. And I go back to that meditation that I conjured from Plato's Republic, where Plato's Socrates is saying that the tyrant is the nightmare of the citizen, so to speak, the citizen of Athens, and that the nightmarish things that Oedipus is capable of doing have to do with, may I put it this way, what happens in the worst dreams of citizens of Athens, and which also become realities for the citizens of Athens as far as Sophocles was concerned. You think of the plague, you think of all the other horrible things that happened in Athens to Athenians, not to mention the horrible things that happened to the Thebans way back when in the heroic age. Well, I've tried to cover quite a lot here, but that was certainly on my mind when I was obsessing in my own mind about the Sphinx.
Yes. I just want to add that the name of the Victor Hugo's daughter is Leopoldine.
Leopoldine, that's right. That was the name of the daughter who drowned, and then the daughter who was obsessed with the death in a remorseful kind of survivor's guilt was Adele, yes. And that's why the film is called Adele H, and it's based on all sorts of literary attempts at recovering her pain.
When Oedipus becomes a king, community treats him like a cult hero. So treating someone who is alive as a cult hero creates many problems for the community.
Oh yes, yes, and we just see it coming. We see it coming from miles away when the people of Thebes address Oedipus as a soltaire, as a savior. Ooh, well, Oedipus is, yes, a soltaire after death, but he certainly doesn't turn out to be a soltaire for the Thebans in this moment. You could say, well, he was in the previous myth that leads up to the myth that Sophocles is concentrating on, but Sophocles is all about catastrophe, right? Which is a reversal where we kind of gloss over that for the Thebans, Oedipus could be a cult hero for his act of solving the riddle of the Sphinx and causing the death of the Sphinx, but sorry, the Athenian take supersedes the Theban take, and you don't really see Sophocles as a legitimated cult hero. He's not yet. He hasn't solved the next riddle, which turns out to be even more important, because now Thebes is being afflicted by a real plague, not just the plague of the Sphinx, which is, may I say, a metaphorical plague. It's a real plague, just as Athenians are afflicted by a real plague at the time that this drama was, in all likelihood, staged. By all likelihood, I mean the time of the staging is most likely to have been the era of the plague that devastated the population of Athens.
So another participant has mentioned something that you just mentioned, that the riddle of the Sphinx is sort of as it were, a dress rehearsal for the riddle of who he really is. And yes, they also say that the Sphinx's riddle itself refers to a baby, an adult, and an old man. So that in itself actually maybe symbolizes Oedipus's own life, where he was supposedly sent out to be exposed as a baby, then as an adult he's come and solved the riddle, but brought upon a very messed up situation, and then becomes, as we've already read, but later in his own lifetime, becomes the old man at Colonus. So the Sphinx's riddle itself is the riddle of Oedipus.
Absolutely, and there's so many things I would love to add to that. For example, I'm convinced that in ancient Greek song and dance traditions, there was a special kind of dance that replicates what old men are like when they're dancing not only on 2 feet, but also with a cane as the third foot. That I'm pretty sure is not a Sophoclean invention. That's as old as the hills of song and dance involving a 3-footed, so to speak, old man. So there's that part of the riddle, so to speak. But then another part of the riddle, which is what is sometimes called the folk etymology, but I don't like the word folk etymology because it's condescending and makes the etymology look playful, and it's not playful, but the idea that the oidi of Oedipus can mean he knows the feet, he knows the number of feet. And in the same breath, I have to mention a second etymology, which is even less of a folk etymology, if you think of folk etymology as a negative term, and this has some morphological validity, where Oedipus means he whose feet are swollen. And here I go to a very strange customary law that we know existed in parts of the Greek-speaking world, where a man, a head of a household, was justified in exposing his child if his feet were so swollen by reason of starvation. So if you're very poor and your feet start swelling, that is a divine sign that you, mother or father, may expose the child to the elements, and you hope that the child will be picked up by somebody, in which case the child is a child of fortune. In Italy, even today, well, maybe not today, but till recent times, bastard children in villages could be called fortunato and fortunata, a child of fortune, because they survived being bastards. And of course, Oedipus, in his desperate moments toward the end of trying to figure out some way that he is not the son of Jocasta and Laios, says, well, I'm a child of fortune. I'm a child of Tyche, and the months are my siblings. What an unseasonal thing to say for somebody who will be destined to be seasonal, but there's so much there.
Wow. Well, thank you again for this wonderful conversation. Look forward to it.
Thank you all. Thank you all. And thanks to the participants for bearing with me as I struggle with these myths. You know, sometimes people come and ask me, what's a good book on mythology so that I can understand tragedy? And I say, well, it's the tragedies. Just read them over and over and over again. Do I understand it? No. I just continue to be enveloped by them, just challenged by them, and that's what they're supposed to be doing to us.
We're the ones who have to figure them out. We have to be the Oedipuses for these myths, perhaps. Perhaps more, hopefully more fortunate than he was.
Well, I keep thinking of how Jean-Pierre Vernant, when he came to Harvard for his one time of lecturing at Harvard, and he was giving a lecture on Oedipus Tyrannos. And I love the way the French pronounce it, because it's even more stress on the last syllable. Ego fano, he was quoting from Sophocles, where Oedipus, almost like a detective, Sherlock Holmes, or who knows, saying, I'm going to flash a light on this matter. Well, ego fano, I will flash a light. It's Apollo who should be flashing light because he's the all radiant God who sees everything. And look what happened to Oedipus. He did not see what he should have seen. And what does that result in but this eternal blindness? I shouldn't say eternal, because the blindness will surely recycle, I'm so optimistic, into the light and life of occult heroes.
All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.
Next time.